The grand climax of 3.5 years of grueling fighting is reached as members of America's historic 7th Regiment of the 1st Cavalry Division enter Tokyo. And General Chase congratulates Private Davis, 1st GI in the Jap capital.
When I worked in Tokyo in the 1990s, a Japanese colleague told me a story about her father's defining experience with Americans following Japan's surrender at the end of the Second World War.
With the precision of a well-oiled machine, the occupation rolls into the city.
The Japanese have been told by their leaders that the victorious Americans would murder, rape and pillage, just as their own troops had treated their defeated enemies. Though, of course, the Japanese people didn't know that part.
No chances are taken, however. Full battle equipment is the order of the day.
Japanese families watched as GIs began placing heavy boxes on the street. At first, they assumed the boxes contained some terrible weapon. But when the troops were gone, some of the more curious children began opening them. Inside were layers of chocolate bars, candy and other treats the near-starving Japanese hadn't seen in years. The memory is just one small vignette of how the US has used not just the power of its economic and military strength to advance its interests, but the awesome force of its values, its commitment to human dignity, to freedom and justice.
It is a moment in history no American can ever forget.
Getting this balance between hard and soft power right was probably the greatest achievement of American leadership in the long peace that followed that war.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Today I worry that in our brave new world of American strategy, we're on the way to destroying it.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time.
America's reputation, built on its ideals and burnished over centuries, is the greatest geopolitical brand ever created. But as someone put it to me recently, we may be witnessing now the greatest exercise in brand destruction in history.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike.
President Trump is not wrong when he complains that the world has taken advantage of America and its mostly benign leadership for too long. But redressing that injustice requires not only robust new policies, it requires a targeted and subtle diplomacy.
Foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream.
The response? Allies, staunchly pro-American friends from Canada to Denmark to Poland, are sullen, angry, and afraid, while adversaries who've long envied our power and tried unsuccessfully to undermine it are essentially hugging themselves with joy.
We will focus like a laser beam on the 83% of global trade that is beyond the United States. Vast opportunities.
Now, I'll readily acknowledge that decades of relative industrial decline and hefty trade deficits have had their costs for America. There's also no doubt that some countries have discriminatory trade practices that need to be redressed. But I'm not at all convinced about the economic transformation Mr. Trump's so-called Liberation Day will deliver.
Right now, the smart strategy is not to panic, just stay in, because we are going to have the biggest boom in the stock market we've ever seen under the Trump policies. We will find a bottom in this market quickly. We will hit 50,000 on the Dow easily by the end of this term.
What's more, we're doing massive damage to our reputation with our friends and allies. Tariffs on Switzerland, a country that has, in effect, no import duties. Singapore. What are we doing punishing Korea and Japan with duties based on a calculation that is nothing to do with tariffs or other supposed barriers to trade?
More than 50 countries have approached the administration about lowering their non-tariff trade barriers, lowering their tariffs, stopping currency manipulation, and they've been bad actors for a long time, and it's not the kind of thing you can negotiate away in days or weeks.
Add to that the duties on those hapless penguins of the Australian territory of Heard Island and the McDonnell Islands, and we look not only mean, but stupid.
I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
The same goes for foreign policy. Again, Mr. Trump has the right instincts. Allies have been cosseted for too long in the comfort blanket of American guarantees. But what exactly are we gaining by punishing Ukraine? And what are we doing threatening to annex Greenland?
We have to have Greenland. It's not a question of, do you think we can do without it? We can. If you look at Greenland right now, if you look at the waterways, you have Chinese and Russian ships all over the place.
This behaviour damages more than our moral standing in the world. It's actually counterproductive. Greenland won't surrender to us. We will presumably eventually do some sort of a deal. But it'll almost certainly be worse than the one we could have negotiated without the threats, and we will have alienated an ally in the process.
When you ask our businesses to invest in the US, they do. When you ask us to spend more on defense, we do. And when you ask of us to strengthen security in the Arctic, we are on the same page. But when you demand to take over a part of the kingdoms of Denmark territory, when we are met by pressure and by threats from our closest ally, what are we to believe in about the country that we have admired for so many years? The country that, if any, have stood up for others' freedom.
Mr. Trump and his allies may find all this satisfying, a muscular flex, an in-your-face message to the world that they can't push America around anymore. But a seemingly calculated effort to cast off our enduring reputation as the place that above all reveres freedom, dignity, and the rule of law will harm us, and not just in the long term.